Welcome to another CollectionDX review. I'm Andrew, taking a look at Arcadia's new 1/60th scale perfect transformation VF-0A Shin Kudo type from Macross Zero. This is the very recently released toy, fresh off the presses here. And if it looks very familiar, well, it's a VF-0. We know what this looks like because, hey, Arcadia, in many ways, they are a follow-up to the company Yamato, who originally released their own VF-0s way back in the day, around like 2006, if I recall, like 10 years ago. And this is the one that I reviewed way back. Actually, I did do a video review of it, so you can check that out if you want. This is the Roy Fokker type, and this is the Shin Kudo type. So it's kind of hard to even tell that these two are different, but there are appreciable differences even in the way these things are designed, for one thing. And I know a lot of people were kind of wondering about this. As far as like mounting the Ghost Fighter on the back as a booster, you cannot do that, or at least you cannot do that with this particular Ghost Booster. This is the one that came with my Roy Fokker type. It does come with parts to mount the boosters, and it's, simple thing. You just pop these things off here. Go slow, because it's kind of the pegs are kind of tight, but you get the idea. You can just get your fingernail under there and then yank on it. So yeah, kind of get it towards the back, because that's where the pegs are. But I wanted to go over this first because it is a question that is on everyone's mind when it comes to these toys. So yeah, anyway, you just take that off, and then you just put in the one that has the slot on the back here. And I'm just going to put these aside for, well, I'm going to put one aside for now. Okay, first thing that I noticed why you couldn't use the old booster is the old booster set, you had these notches in here partially so you could put this on here, and yeah, this is too small for the notch, which is just a little bit bigger. So that was one sign that you couldn't use it. This looks like it does fit like this, because you would have both of these two alternate tanks on the side here, conformal tanks. But what I noticed is, because the main body of the Arcadia VF-0 is smaller, it's actually a lot slimmer in the front profile now. Yeah, this will not go in there because these don't have enough clearance to kind of get far enough in. Although this does still mount, like it still has the space to go in here, because the slots still work like that. But as far as I can tell, you can't get these little canards to go down enough so that they will fit between the two conformal tanks. So yeah, that's one thing that people need to be aware of. I forget if they actually mentioned that you could use the old Ghost Booster. Maybe that was their plan initially and things changed. Maybe we just got the wrong word for some reason, but yeah, the instructions do mention these are for a Ghost Booster, so I think there's going to be one at some point. Hopefully there will be. If not, well, you still got the toy. But anyway, one more quick comparison before I dive into this by itself. Alright, so here it is next to Shin Kudo's other Valkyrie from Macross Zero, the VF-0D, and this was actually the first Macross Zero Valkyrie that Arcadia released. And these things are gigantic because they're about a foot long, and they also feel pretty heavy. So they're nice and pretty looking, very solid. They look really nice and they feel really nice too. But so this is basically, they used all the improvements they made with the new VF-0D, and they applied them to a VF-0A, and yeah, it's a lot of nice stuff. And let me start getting into all the nice stuff that I've answered the initial questions about this figure. So what I think most people want to know about the new VF-0A is, can it do the things that the old VF-0s could do? Pretty much, yeah, it can do. It still has the air brake up there. The canopy still opens up. Actually, it's on a little sliding joint now, so it can pop out, but There you go. The seat does move for Bataroid mode, so you can make Shin lean back in his seat when he transforms his airplane into a giant robot. You still have the hard points underneath here, and the missiles can move. It comes with the super enhanced AIM-120 AMRAAMs from the series that have those goofy orange things on the front, little sensor things. I'm pretty sure these are compatible with the old weapons if you have an older VF-0 kicking around. It certainly is compatible with the weapons that came with the VF-0D. You have the pivot tube up front. It comes with 2 of them because, you know, you could probably break this thing. And it does move around for transformation, although most of the time people just, you know, come down here and then pop it off because you don't really need it on there for Bataroid mode. You have die-cast landing gear with rubber tires. The head sits nicely flush with the underside. And gun pod stores in between here, like that. And you can also see some of the gleaming die-cast within. Please check out my VF-0D review where I kind of go into some of this as well. There's basically a whole lot more die-cast in this version of the toy than the previous VF-0 toys. Now the fast packs on the side here, you're going to notice that they don't have the UN Spacey markings. In fact, overall this thing doesn't have as many markings as the old Yamato one, although it's weird because, actually, let's bring out the old one again. This one actually used a sticker for the UN Spacey symbol. This was tampo printed on. This was tampo printed on, and this is all tampo printed on. Here, you get the UN Spacey symbol tampo printed on, but not the actual UN Spacey text on the fast pack. And also, these fast packs, they are not connected with a magnet. They actually just went with a simple... Oh, that went flying. Anyway, but it's just a little slot and then a triangle-shaped slot up front. So I liked the magnet system, but I don't really care that they changed it. It's still nice and secure. It sits nice and flush, and it only added a pair of holes that you can barely see. And there's also some holes on the side here. Some of the stuff is going to be for the reactive armor set, which they've already announced, and so that'll probably come out by itself or bundled with the Roy type. But yeah. Anyways, I guess the only other thing that's still going on here is you got the little arrestor hook in the back there. All right, so that's most of the gimmicks, and oh yeah, and obviously there's the good old removable intake covers. You just kind of pop those in or out fairly easily. Now I'm going to demonstrate this toy being mounted on the display stand, which has its own perils. We're up here now. Alright, so I'm just going to show you how to put your Arcadia VF-0 onto a display stand, and this is actually the old Yamato display stand that comes with the SV51 toy. If you've ever seen the new Arcadia clear ones, they're basically this retooled. They have like storage spots down here, and you saw this. I used this in the VF-0 video. And this is the stand that comes with the VF-0A, the stand adapter, I should say. It's a little C-clip thing, and all you really need to know about it is, well, for one thing, it's kind of loose on this, but that's because they're from different eras. This is almost like coming up on like 8 years old now. But all you want to know about, or keep in mind with this, is that the little cutout area right here is going to stay in the back, because what you're going to do is kind of slot this in between where the fast packs are, and this just grabs, and it grabs really tightly the tab, or the slots I should say, that are on the other side of the intake there. And then you just stick this up here like this, and maybe move your lighting so it isn't quite as bright. And while I'm here, I'm just gonna retract the landing gear, and since this thing only has one head laser, you gotta move it out of the way first. Nice little bit of realism there. I guess I'll take this off just to show you with the rear landing gear, the main wheels. So you just push this in like this, so that's angled inward, and that'll give you enough space to put this down. The main strut is going to go into that slot in there. And make sure that the feet are in to do this, because if they're out, a bit of die cast actually comes out and blocks that little slot in there. So that allows you to flip these down. They just push in. Getting these back out can be kind of a pain unless you have long fingernails or you use a tool. I often use a toothpick because it's a soft thing that is still kind of pointy. So that's one way to do it. And here we go. VF-0 up on the stand. And it looks gorgeous because, hey, it's a Kawamori design. And to be honest, in a lot of ways, I like the VF-0 a lot more than the VF-1. But yeah, that's kind of just me, I guess. But no, it's got nice details. It's got the full engine detailing in there. These move, they're actually on ball joints. The ball joints are kind of tight, so if you want to do some thrust vectoring action, just work it slowly at first so you don't do anything bad to the hinges up here. Although this toy is actually quite sturdy, and it's a lot more robust than the VF-0D, if only because it doesn't have so many like little fins and thingies that get in the way of just like handling it normally. This is a nice, more streamlined design. Now, if you want to get this off, good luck. It grips this thing super tight, and you probably want to just take off the fast packs before trying to do this. So, because basically it's like really, oh, that wasn't actually in there. Now it is in there, and yeah, now it's it's cooperating now. Funny that, because sometimes when you put this on, it gets super tight. You have to make sure that these are in as far as they can be, that they're like locked in up here as much as they can be before you do that, because otherwise this will grab it super tight and it'll be hard to actually like yank it back out again. You'd have to partially transform it in order to get it out. But yeah. Anyway, let's move on to Gearwalk mode, because that's the mode that changed Kawamori's life. No kidding. Alright, so let's transform the VF-0A into Gearwalk mode. Before I do that, I am just going to remove the pitted tube because it's made out of hard plastic. Unfortunately, they couldn't really do it out of soft plastic because it would just be bendy, and making out of metal would mean it will probably snap. But anyway, what I like about this, my VF-0A compared to the D, is the feet come in and out much easier. There's less of what I called quality gone out of control with this toy, where just things were just super tight right out of the box, and it was just hard to manipulate the figure. So you can pull these out, and we'll do that, and just open that up, so you can see the lovely engine nozzles on the inside, and just kind of move this back a little bit. These were actually a little tight the first time I transform this thing, but now it's a bit more smooth and buttery. There's a whole die-cast mechanism on the inside here for the ankle assembly. And also you're going to notice this is an appreciable difference from the old Yamato VF-0s. There is this flap that is part of the back plate, and that just helps hide the gearwalk joint that's in here. It doesn't move or anything, it's just there. So on the one hand, it kind of smooths out the side of the Valkyrie, but on the other hand, it's kind of in the way when you transform it, but it's not too bad. Because what you're going to do next is you just pop this out, and then bring this forward. And you can also extend the joint and reveal, oh goodness, look at the die cast in there. So this is more like the later Yamato toys, and then obviously early Arcadia toys, where this is just a whole die-cast mechanism. It's not quite the same as on the old VF-0, where this just kind of accordioned out in a... hey, there's a helicopter outside. Anyway, Maybe it's that one from Macross Hero. No. But yeah, so instead of like accordioning out, it just kind of comes out, and it does leave a bit of a gap, but that gap is there so you can have space for the kneecap. So that's how that goes. And just do it again on this side. You're just kind of disengaging a tab from the backpack as you're doing this. And here we go. Just want to, if you want to just leave this in like that half gearwalk mode, you just kind of push these back in. And here you go. Let's move this up a little bit. And here we go. VF-0 and the half gearwalk mode. Okay, and now for the arms. So with the arms, you really have to just be cautious when you're moving them past this thingy right here. So take out the gun pod from where it gets sandwiched between the forearms here. Just kind of move this out of the way. Move these out of the way. You can bring up the backpack. One thing you're probably going to see is when I yank back on these, they might come out. They're not broken. They just tend to come out when I pull them. They're on a little sliding. Yeah, see like that. They're on a little sliding mechanism. And it can be difficult to do that without getting them to, to stay in. But I actually find it kind of helps because you can just do this real quick as you're folding the backpack over. And always do the red one goes down first, or the one with the red formation light. And then you just do that. And now the backpack is good. And then you just kind of bring this up. There's a hinged plate up here that's going to come all the way up like that, and that's for the beginnings of gearwalk mode, or I should say the midpoint of gearwalk mode. And as you're doing all this, you want to disengage this thing right under here. That's where the hips plug in to the main body, and you just kind of move this all out and around and just sort of work it past, again, the little triangle shaped piece right there. I think the main thing is this happened a lot more on the VF-0D because this was all painted, so there was a lot of scraping between this and this. But here it's a little bit easier because even though you have the triangle piece in the way, this is just all bare plastic, so less of a chance of getting paint scraping. So you just kind of bring this up and put it over. And this is where I can talk a little bit about things that have changed with the newer Arcadia VF-0. So this part is now, it was die-cast in the original, but now it's just bare die-cast. There's no paint on it. The actual arm struts, these are now die-cast, or at least this part is. Actually, I think this whole thing is now die-cast instead of it being plastic. So that's where some of the extra die-cast is going. Obviously, it's in the ankle mechanisms, it's in the knee mechanism. So yeah, and with these ankles, if you really want, because you have both the ball joint, and there's also just a tilting joint in here. So you kind of have to like tilt it at the ball joint, and then tilt it at the little pivot right there. So, and that's how you get the feet out to support a proper A stance. So with the arms here, what you're going to want to do is this whole elbow assembly pulls out. So you just want to pull it out as much as it'll go. Same thing on this side, makes a nice little click. Probably want to angle the wings back and then bring the shoulders down. And there you go. Trying to get these all the parts of the leg lined up. So do this like this. I usually leave the shoulder pads horizontal for this because they tend to knock into the wings, but it's really just positioning. And you pull the hands forward. Don't pull them too hard because you'll make them detach. And you can kind of see right here they are fairly easy to detach, even though this thing doesn't come with any extra hands. It just has the regular hands for the articulated hands that it's pretty much always had, even in the old Yamato version. Alright, so to finish this off, you put up the arrestor hook, and there's a little slider to move back. And yeah, you kind of want to try to get something in there to get it to move. Yeah, I probably should have done that beforehand, unless you can get your hands in there to move this thing some other way. But anyway, that's going to make the thrusters on the back come out. I will do that off camera as I talk about Gear Walk Complete. Alright, so Arcadia's VF-0A, full-on Gearwalk mode. It's a gorgeous-looking Gearwalk mode, much like their VF-0D was. It's just, you know, it's got that poise. The die-cast joints certainly help the overall look and feel. The arm joints especially, because you can just get them like all the way up so that it can touch its own shoulder pad there. That is a marked improvement on the Yamato VF-0. The gun pod is pretty much the same though. You just pull this out and then this comes up and out on a little sliding track. There's a slot in here that's actually mostly used for attaching the gun pod in fighter mode, but it also works. There's actually a tab on the palm that you can work at, and you can get it all lined up here for holding the gun in the hand. And you know, it's nice, all the joints are pretty smooth. They actually got rid of the whole idea of making the elbows ratcheted, so this is just a smooth die-cast joint. You know, this is smooth, this is a ratchet. Most of this stuff is actually just like smooth ball joints and no ratchets in there. So you know, it looks pretty good, and this was the thing I told you about before, where you are actually sliding this thing, the whole thruster assembly back, using this little tab. I actually had to use a tool to get it to move, because it is fairly stiff. But anyway, it does come out. There's the arrestor hook up there. And you know, it looks like a Gearwalk. That iconic mode for Valkyries. And for a little comparison, here's the old Yamato VF-0S. And when I say old, I'm starting to notice just how kind of yellow this thing looks under the light. And honestly, I like this toy too, but it aged. It aged a little maybe quicker than it should have, especially to what they started doing with the role Yamato started doing with their second VF-1 toys. But although those toys owe a lot to the old VF-0 toys. But anyway, it's hard to really tell that there even are differences. I mean, I said this is actually wider. This whole area is wider on this one. This is much slimmer. The panel lines are much more refined. Everything's a little bit more subtle and detailed. The fact that you don't have to deal with what this actually was ratcheted on the original version, but I took the spring out, so yeah. So if you might remember my old review, these kind of like really were hard to move. And I think the biggest difference that you can see between the two is this is how the knee mechanism works on this. Actually, this part up here extends outward slightly so it can get that curved look. Whereas on this one, this is all like fixed in place, and it's really just the pull-out die-cast joint in here that's doing a lot of the work. But anyway, it's kind of cool to see how they managed to make the newer figure feel like it is, you know, different, you know, and just kind of more refined than the original. And it just kind of gives you a good reason to want to pick this one up. I actually didn't have any other VF-0s, so, you know, getting this kind was really a priority for me. I should say I didn't have the old Yamato VF-0s other than the S-type. But anyway, let me just show you what this looks like on the stand real quick, and then we'll move on the way to Battleroid mode. So here's just a quick tutorial on how to put this up on the stand, and I added the fastbacks just for flavor. So the stand adapter, what it's going to do is it actually has little notches that are going to hook around the swing bar in the back here, and also there's a clip that hooks onto the swing bar as well. So it's really just a case of popping it in there. It's pretty easy. And you just take this, stick it in here, and make sure you arrange the stand right so this whole thing doesn't flop forward. Oh goodness. Alright, anyway. There you go. Looks nice on the stand. And also, if you want, you can take the gun pod, retract the handle. And there is actually enough tension to keep it on the arm in that kind of classic Valkyrie style of holding its gun pod. So yeah, and then you can also get enough room, put the air brake out, you know, bring these out like that. Yeah, and this is a little tight, as I mentioned before. So just be careful when moving it. I'm not sure how loose it's going to get over time, but you know, that's a thing that I will be able to tell you in maybe 5 years. But yeah, so here we go. Gearwalk mode. Alright, time for the main event, which is pretty much always Battleroid mode. So let's get to it. So going into Battleroid mode is obviously similar to the VF-1 because this is kind of a derivative, predecessor, testbed, oh whatever. But anyway, I'm leaving the pitted tube off because stuff happens around here that would make it just get in the way. So what you're going to do is kind of like with Gearwalk mode, you just unclip these and then bring them all the way back. You're going to want to retract the Gearwalk joint while you have a nice clear way of getting at it, because it seems like always one of these is a little bit tighter than the other one. But yeah, just sort of push on it like in here, because the clip that holds it in place is actually back here, so you want to push it like towards the bottom part of the leg. So put that up, and this is how it's going to be oriented for Battleroid mode. Come back here, push this through. There's going to be a way for you to get it there. And with the front, what you're going to want to do is there's a way to just extend the head out and keep it on camera here. Just bring these little filler pieces up like this. They're on double hinge and they will rest flat in place. Just kind of make sure that this is all. Oops. Yeah, sometimes they pop off. Notice that more with my VF-0D. They seem a lot better on the A-type though. So just kind of leave those like that, and you're going to pop off the little tab that goes across the canopy cover. Excuse me. So this is on a pair of double hinges. It's going to come kind of up and out as it slides off of the two like spotlight thingies that are on a lot of Valkyries, especially VF-1 looking things. So you're going to be bringing this up and out like that. The canopy cover is on a little slider and it's also on a hinge, so it's going to come forward a little bit, just a little bit as it comes down to cover up the canopy. So yeah, you're going to do that. Actually, before any of that, you're going to want to rotate the head like this and put it like that. So that's all the way through. And the hinges on mine for the chest plate are tight, so it's kind of like you gotta really move it as you're bringing this all down. Alright, so coming towards the back here, open up this little area on the bottom of the nose cone, and this is the door where the die-cast swing bar goes in, and it just sort of goes like right in there. Funny thing though is the VF-0 has like Takatoku style swing bars on it, like in the anime, if you watch Roy's Valkyrie transform in that glorious shot. Yeah, but the toy just kind of does the cheat that the old 148 VF-1s did. I think that's interesting. It's like they couldn't quite replicate the design, even though, hey, this one's actually based on a CG model. You just want to push the back plate in a bit, like that, and then just bring this up as far as it'll go, and pretty much just stays there. And retract the wings, and one wing is going to just slide a bit over the other one. I'm fairly certain you do this wing without the UN Spacey kite over this wing. So like that. And we're almost done. One cool thing that this one adds that the VF-0D didn't have, the two-seater, is this one has a little flap here. You put that down and now this gap is covered. It's like, wow, that's interesting that they actually added that. They wanted to clean up the battery mode as much as possible and try to make sure that all of this is like as down as far as it can go, because then you can get this in place. Yeah, anyway, this is the VF-0A battery mode. Alright, now let me talk about this in depth and bring out some more Valkyries to do silly comparisons with. Alright, I'm going to run through some comparisons before diving into looking at the VF-0A by itself. First off, I'll get the old VF-0S out so you can see these two next to each other in Battleroid mode. This is, overall just much tighter, more refined, because, it came like, I still want to say like almost 10 years later. But you can still see it's hard to kind of get why they're different at first, at just like at a glance, because they're very similar, This was derived from a CG model, so there's not going to be a whole lot that's going to deviate. I mean, I do think there were different CG models depending on the mode that they were using in a specific scene, but they did have ones that could transform, and it's all the fun stuff of anime production. But yeah, this is still an appreciable upgrade. This is heavier. I mean, this guy's still mostly plastic. This guy adds, this one here, the A-type adds a heck of a lot of die-cast metal to kind of shore up some of the weaknesses seen in the original Yamato type. But still, it'll be interesting to see how the S-type turns out, the Arcadia S-type, because the pictures so far make it look stupidly sexy. But if it's anything like this, it's going to be a very, very nice release. Next up, I'm going to bring out Shin's other Valkyrie from Macross 0. And you can actually say he actually has 3 because he hijacks one poor dead guy's VF-0A. But anyway, here's the D-type that he pilots with Edgar. So you can see, despite the fact that this does have 2 guys in the cockpit, it's actually not that different as far as like size and overall shape of a lot of the limbs. However, there's still a lot of remolding to turn this into this, because this was the first Arcadia toy. First off, the legs are very different because it has to have the tail fins on it. The fact that the back of the leg on this one, actually, if I move the leg or the wing out of the way, you can see this actually lines up with the back plate of the body. The back plate itself is probably the same. It looks pretty similar. The backpacks are different because this just has no tail fins at all, and this has the ones folded in the back here. The arms, I'm sure part of the legs here are the same, but this has to be different because there's a fin here. It has to be a little different because there's the whole like canard mechanism that plugs in up here, which is just simply not present on this toy. Although it does have extra tabs here. That's going to be for the reactive armor set, and the heads are different, and obviously the whole nose section is different, and the wings. So that's kind of how these things shake up. They're not as similar as you would think at first glance, but I can definitely see why they had to do this first, because there's a lot of effort put into this, but they can still use some stuff over on this figure. And this was kind of the big, like, oh, we didn't do this before, we'll do it now. So to get people excited about Macross 0 again. And also one quick question I want to answer. You cannot use the fast packs on the D-type. This does not have any slots in its legs. It has the same details, but there are physically no slots in there as there are on this toy. And while I'm talking about Macross Zero things, I will bring out the old Yamato SV51, which for its time was a very ambitious and impressive piece, one that does not really fit in shot, as it's, all these guys are pushing a foot as far as how tall they are. I guess this is more like closer to like 10 inches, but still very, very large figures. But yeah, I still like this thing. It's weird and it's neat, and kind of intentionally awkward in a lot of ways. I wouldn't mind seeing this redone with this quality. Maybe we'll see that. Maybe we'll see a new YF-21. Who knows what the future actually holds for Arcadia? But this is where we are right now, and it's still kind of funny that Nora can look down on Shin as she did in the OVA. And lastly, just for fun, here is the Arcadia VF-0A with a Yamato VF-1A. And you can kind of see how the two are similar, but the VF-1 is a tiny little airplane compared to the VF-0. This is more like 14 meters long in fighter mode, and this is like 18 meters long in fighter mode as far as the quote-unquote real ones are concerned. And in interviews, Kawamori said that, oh, I wanted to differentiate the VF-1 from the Gundam, which is like 18 meters tall. So they didn't want his robot turning into a 60-foot long airplane. But this one does. So yeah, that's kind of neat how they've sort of got bigger. Well, I guess they started out bigger, got smaller, then kind of got bigger. But I don't know, that's Macross continuity for you. So I'm going to finish this up and just kind of show you the articulation and stuff on this guy. So as far as articulation is concerned, free from all of those like huge wings and extra canards and tail fins hanging off the legs, the VF-0A is a marked improvement over the VF-0D as far as how well it can pose, just because it's a nice clean design and the toy just benefits from that. And as you saw before with those nice double jointed arms, unfortunately it's hard to get the hand to grasp the gun quite as nicely as you'd like. You can easily have it holding it with two hands. You can kind of tuck it under like a more like a classic gun pose. The head is really nice because it actually has a little bit of a side-to-side waggle in addition to being able to turn the full 360 for the transformation. And there's actually like a little die-cast assembly in here under the chin that's what allows it to go up and down a little bit for transforming into fighter mode, where it gets nice and flush with the underside of the airplane. So that's quite cool. And this all comes out as well. There's like joints in here, the die-cast shoulder assembly that can move as well. But yeah, it's pretty much what you expect of a Valkyrie toy, and benefits from the VF-0s is kind of more detailed joints because they can just realize that stuff without making it look weirdly awkward trying to fill in details from an older 2D design. Now, the hips have the pull-out mechanism that I showed in my VF-0D review, and as you're manipulating this might come out a little bit, but that actually just lets you get more space to move this, because the back of the intake usually hits this thing. So what you do is you just kind of yank and pull, and the die-cast bar in here is exposed, and there's actually a little bit of a lip there, so it feels like when you put it back there's a bit more of a click than on the D-type. So yeah, that's sort of how you start to do that. And if you want to get this up, just kind of move the wing out of the way. Just be aware of where it is as you're moving the leg all around, and you can just kind of stick it back in to stabilize it. You can pull out the whole die-cast knee joint, and you can do this. Actually, the reason why you want to use the hip joint is because you can start to get things up and out a bit more. Do some fairly dynamic poses with it. You've still got the knee swivel, although you want to extend this just a little bit so you can get the full range of motion here. And I'm not showing it, but you did see before you had the pull-out ankle joints. And hold on a second, let me just grab one of these. Again, this is way easier to do than on my VF-0D. That thing was just a nightmare to extend the ankles out on it. It was like, it was making the review even harder to do because I had to pause it and just yank it out off camera and then do it. Yeah, anyway, got your VF-0A in some nice poses. If you want, you can also get it to kneel, but I'm going to do that in my text review, so please watch for that. But right now, I'm going to just end this off by showing you the stand. And this is the weird nose cone cup adapter. It does have a hole in the back in case you still have the pivot tube attached in the nose cone area. And, oops, sorry. And basically you just kind of stick this up in here and, oh, right. Problem is I have this flipped forward too much. Yeah, they really want you to more like keep this down, even though that means that the top of the intake is gonna hit against that, because you really want that in as much as you can so that you can just sort of fit the die-cast bar in there and then get that all the way down. And look at me as I'm struggling to do this on camera. Actually, you want to, just forgetting basic things, actually you want to pull the, there we go. One of these is a little bit tighter than the other. So do that, push it in there, and here you go. You got your VF-0 up on a stand in Bataroid mode, and maybe we'll bring up the camera with it so you can at least get a good look at it there. Alright, so that's pretty much what you would expect putting a chunky robot toy up on the stand. And again, you can attempt to have this in here as well. I would not really recommend bothering with the pitted tube in Bataroid mode. Just because you're trying to like fit this thing here, and while it's resting against like yeah, I might have broken this one doing that, but they give you a second one. But anyway, yeah, it rests like right against this thing, and it's like you can't really put it in all the way because there's not enough room for it. But yeah, just leave it off. You know, just use it in fighter mode and maybe gearwalk mode. But it's just there for flavor. That's like the least important part of this toy. Anyway, so final thoughts. I really like this figure. It's basically, oh, this is what I just really wanted from a nice modern VF-0 toy. And not that the old one was bad, but it just had aged a lot. Maybe more than we expected it to. Whereas this, they just sort of give you all the quality up front, you know, the die-cast joints, all that stuff too. A note on the paint scheme, this looks different than we normally used to seeing it as far as like merchandise goes. But in the OVA, sometimes it did have blue on its fins and like the back of its legs. Because, you know, anime production is a very tumultuous thing. I think they might have actually had more than one model for all the Valkyries, and maybe some of them were colored differently, even though they were CG models. But yeah, or the lighting screwed something up, or it's just really hard to tell because Macross Zero has a very painterly look to it anyway, so it's just kind of hard to gauge what it's supposed to like look like in reality. But yeah, so this is what they went for. I'm okay with it because I like how it looks. You know, it's basically like, oh, there's a darker color for the highlights, and that's fine. But yeah, biggest problem with this toy, I think it costs a lot. Like, a whole lot. Like, the MSRP is 34,800 yen, which with today's exchange rate is about $290. Yeah, so that's a big increase from the originals And Mr. K actually put up a big blog post about, you know, why are Macross stuff so expensive from them now? And Mr. K being the guy at Arcadia who handles a lot of the Macross projects, kind of like their project manager for that brand. And he's been around since the Yamato days. Basically, what he said was the cost of labor in China has gone up, and that just filters through to everything else. Like, these things have a high parts count because they transform. So the molds have to have more parts. More parts on the molds means, you know, longer labor times. More painting has to be done. More stuff with like tampographs has to be done. So it's all kind of added up, and they still want to turn a profit on these things too. So yeah, that's just sort of the short of it. I'll actually link the post he put up. It's in Japanese, but I'll put it in the description of this video just so you can see that for yourselves. But yeah, if you're okay with the price, you know, or maybe you see it cheaper down the line, it's great. This is like a really, really nice toy. It's got that feel, you know, it doesn't have the awkwardness of the VF-0A, and it's just, you know, a very striking design from a part of Macross that I actually do like quite a bit. So yeah, hooray for Shin, hooray for Macross Zero. Anyway, this has been Andrew for CollectionDX.com. Please check out the text review when it goes up, and please look for more Macross reviews on our YouTube channel and in the future. Thanks for watching.